People who grew up with strict parents. What was their most unreasonable rule? I was from a large family and discipline was very strict. If myself or one of my siblings broke one of the major rules, my parents would hold a truth session. All the children would be brought to my dad's study, where the guilty party would be given an opportunity to confess. If nobody came forward, we would be hit, in turn in order of ascending age. The eldest four were hit with a sewer rod while, in deference to their age, the youngest ones would get a whack of a bamboo stick. A sewer rod is basically a 4-foot long flexible rubber rod, around an inch thick, and with a metal cap. It would leave the most remarkable welts. Horrendous things really. Anyway, this would continue until someone admitted their guilt. At that point they would receive the blows that everyone else had received to that point. So that was awful. I fully acknowledge that. I'm under no illusions. However, that wasn't the actual unreasonableness. No, the unreasonable part was that the person who caused the truth session didn't always receive the accrued punishment owed for having their siblings beaten. Sometimes they could just be let go, making their siblings hate them for causing pain to them. There'd be no explanation. The study door would be opened, and we'd all be told to leave. That meant you could be rewarded for holding out and avoiding the punishment you definitely get if you admitted it at the beginning. My parents now tell fun stories about how, when I was a child and I'd done something wrong, I'd always begin with, "Let me tell you my story." Haha, they chortle at my childish phrasing, while I recall the terror that such an approach was meant to stave off. Not my parents, but I had a friend who got it pretty bad. If you want to play for 1 hour, you have to also practice piano for 1 hour. These and other such rules were posted on his bedroom door. My mom was very strict about the ratings of movies and video games. One year for Christmas a relative gave me a copy of Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64. It was a T14 rated game and I wouldn't be turning 13 for another 4 weeks. My mom had my dad drive me to Toys R Us to return the game. We walked into the store and over to the games, and he had me pick out an E for everyone rated game. We proceeded to check out, and as we went to the car he handed me not only the new game, but the game we were supposed to have returned to buy it as well, and told me not to let her catch me playing it. That guy deserves a high five. I had a friend who wasn't allowed to say the word stupid and tried to report me to the teacher. When I said it, teacher yelled at me and then told me it was okay in private and not to say it around that one kid. Nice guy, though, just had a helicopter mom. My kids are allowed to say stupid, but we always taught them that it was never okay using it referring to a person. My oldest is 10, and when my youngest daughter heard her call something stupid she ran to tell on her older sister. My wife and I cracked up laughing when the little one couldn't understand why she hadn't gotten her sister in trouble. I was not allowed to wear makeup or shave until 16. My mom was controlling about food. Everything was kept track of. I had to be in marching band in order to get my permit. I had a job, but even if I worked second shift, which I did, and came home at 11, I would have to clear the plates from the table for the dinner that they ate. If I asked to hang out with a friend in the presence of said friend, the answer was automatically no. I was only allowed to do things if the friend or their parent was paying for it. The straw that broke the camel's back and ultimately made me move out at 16 was that I had to live like a boarder. Showers cost $5. A load of laundry was $1 for washer, $1 for dryer. Telephone time cost $0.25 per minute. My stepmom decided that I was using too much shampoo. She would get a little medicine cup before my shower and pour the designated amount into it. It wasn't ever enough because I had hair down to my butt. I also wasn't allowed to use conditioner. Screw her. I also wasn't allowed to use conditioner. I got a paper route when I was 12 years old. The very first thing I bought with my earnings was a giant bottle of conditioner. I was/am not allowed to do the following: use the washing machine, wash the dishes, pull the weeds, vacuum outside of my room. I must ask to use the vacuum. I can't cook a meal. I can't have the remote. I get instructed on how to use the microwave that I've been using for years. And if I ask where we are going I get told out. And I have to dress in jeans, a shirt and running shoes, no matter how hot, because he doesn't like shorts and no jacket no matter how cold. I was not allowed to watch Pokemon because it taught evolution. Haha. My brother couldn't watch it because Pokemon equals pocket monsters, which is a sneaky word for demons. We could not listen to music with guitars in it. I will never forget the day my brother was listening to Sabbath Bloody Sabbath and my father took the radio and threw it through the window. Spent my childhood listening to Richard Marx and Michael Bolton. Thanks Dad. Currently on holiday in Japan, have to message every hour to update them on what I'm doing. Create a script that sends the same 5 messages in a random order every hour. 30 minutes of internet time a day and 99% of the time that was supervised, as in mom looking over my shoulder and commenting on conversations. We had WebTV, RIP, and when they weren't home, they would literally lock the keyboard in a toolbox. My sis and I could never have friends stay over because the house is a mess. No amount of cleaning satisfied mom, because the real reason was she wanted to be able to fight with my dad at will. I wasn't allowed to cross any streets until middle school. Thus, my best friends were the ones who lived on the same block as me. For every minute I was late coming in from curfew, I got grounded a week. I once spent 10 weeks grounded due to a sobriety checkpoint. Wow, for me it was every minute late is a minute earlier the next day. Mine is logical, yours is insane. My mom's curfew was 7 PM and her brother's was 12 AM. Her brother was about 2 years younger than her, and my granddad's logic was that girls get themselves into more trouble than boys. My poor mother only ever attended church functions for fun until she graduated from high school. I was not allowed to talk to boys. One Christmas Eve day, I was doing last minute shopping in the downtown of our little town. I ran into 2 male friends from my German class and we talked for several minutes and wished each other a Merry Christmas. Oh, I was 15 at the time. My older sister drove by and saw me, told my parents I was hanging out with boys. When I walked in the house both my parents were waiting, and the yelling began. Some Christmas Eve. Sneaik. Indian parents. I could stay at a sleepover until 2 AM, but couldn't actually sleep at that person's house lol. I wasn't allowed to say I died on Mario. I lost one of my chances to succeed. Son, your grandpa lost one of his chances to succeed. Have a friend who isn't allowed to go out if he's already had too much fun this weekend. That's the only reason. They think he'll become corrupted if he has too much fun and that he won't know how to work. He's in college. My parents were pretty slack on everything except one thing: no video games console ever and no online games on the computer, because that's how you get virus and make the computer run slow. So I was playing my morg when they were sleeping, in a hidden file, in a file, in another file, in another file, and I was changing the appearance of every file icon, and this is how you reverse your child's sleep schedule. No sneezing or yawning B/W 12:30 PM and 4:30 PM. If true, then we can safely assume your parents were mental. My father was very strict. I wasn't allowed to have alone time with my mother. He beat the out of me constantly. But the oddest thing that still bugs me to this day is that he would burn all my things as punishment. And I get it. Seeing my toys and valuables burning sucked, and I probably learned some lessons. But he not only burned toys, he would burn everything. Every year or so for school we would go to Meja and buy me new school clothes and shoes. He would also burn those, like sometimes days, after he bought them. At 8 years old I remember thinking, you now have to buy me more clothes. But that wasn't the point, I suppose. He once took me to the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit to see the Globetrotters one year, and during the night he bought me a Globetrotters basketball and jersey. We had a fun night. The very next day, I had left something on the floor in my room and his punishment, among other things, was to burn the basketball and jersey he bought for like $150 less than 24 hours earlier. It just never made sense to me. My friends would joke about it all throughout middle and high school. Seriously, one of the psychopathic answers on here. Sorry you had to live with that. This blew my mind. My parents were slack. My best friend's parents were so strict. She would escape to my house for freedom. 12th grade. Prom. Her parents allowed her to go to prom, but said she wasn't allowed to dance. We all went to prom, had fun dancing, until she saw her parents standing at the back watching. She then moved out for university. After her first year, she came home to work for the summer. She had been on her own for a year and supporting herself, and her parents gave her a 9 p.m. curfew. She spent a lot of time at my house that summer. She was married by the next summer and didn't have to deal with it. Females of the family must cook and clean on holidays, while males watch TV. Must bus males plates every night. No visiting friends' houses, no friends over at our house all the way through high school. Hair cannot be cut at or above shoulder. 7 p.m. bedtime. Not curfew. Bedtime. Through junior high. Strictly enforced. Needless to say, I rebelled strong and hard. There were a lot, but the most ridiculous one to me was they didn't want me volunteering during high school. I was visiting the elderly, and they said it was too dangerous to be around strangers like that, and the time was taking away from my studies. Most extracurriculars I wanted to do they had a huge problem with, but it didn't hit me how absurd it was, until it was about senior citizens. The ironic thing is those things look great on college applications. I wasn't allowed to shrug or say I don't know if anything tech related went wrong. It was assumed that I broke it on purpose, even if the only reason anyone knew it was broken is because I was trying to fix it. Birthday parties were a no-go. Christmas was a no-go. Any party whatsoever was a no-go. My mom was insanely controlling about food. Weird rules were in place, like 1 slice of lunch meat per sandwich. No one but her was allowed to cook. She'd make 1 giant batch of spaghetti or something, and we'd have leftovers for days, so she only had to make dinner twice a week. She did not work or anything, just didn't like cooking every day. Breakfast was cold cereal and you'd only be allowed a small bowl with just enough milk to moisten it. Occasionally she'd bake something she called corn toasties, which was simply cornbread baked in a sheet pan. She'd cut them into squares and fill the freezer with them, and we could have one of those for breakfast as an alternative. Once when I was 14 I bought a pack of hot dogs at the store, snuck them home, and lit the grill. I was almost done cooking them when she came out screaming about fire hazards and swatted the plate out of my hand. She had been making spaghetti. What an ungrateful little bastard I was. So then she orders a pizza for the rest of my family, wraps individual servings of spaghetti in freezer paper, and puts them away. She tells me that I will be eating nothing else until it's all gone. Took about 2 months to choke it all down. Went without eating a lot of days. I was also grounded for over a year. But I sure learned a lot about consequences. No trends or passing fads. Pokemon, banned. Barbies, banned. Beanie Babies, banned. PlayStation/Gamma Boys, banned. Anything particularly fashionable or popular regardless of actual merit was met with derision, and we'd be mocked for even suggesting interest. We were achingly frumpy kids with interests and cultural references, or lack thereof, that isolated us from our peers, and they wondered why each of us were bullied. Pretty sure the verdict is in on Barbie and PlayStation. They aren't fads. We couldn't go sledding during the winter or any other season, obviously, because my mom was a neat freak and didn't want snow slogged into the garage. So, no snow playing of any kind, really. Never built a snowman. Did go sledding when I was an adult. It's pretty great. All of our clothes in our closet had to be arranged by color, descending in order by shade. So, for example, midnight blue at one end of the blue section and tar heel blue at the other. There was a system in place for colors too, so if the yellows were by the purples, for example, there'd be hell to pay. No shoes on in the house under any circumstances. Was super uncomfortable when my brother's friend, who had prosthetic legs and always had shoes on, came over and didn't take his shoes off. Mom got really mad and confronted him. No Legos or puzzles allowed, as they make messes and look like disorder. I f***ing love puzzles as an adult. One of my favorite hobbies. Individuality was almost a cardinal sin in my parents' house. You wear what they like. You eat what they like. You do what they like. You do not under any circumstances act like a human being with hopes, dreams, and opinions. No dating till marriage. When I was in 5th grade I wrote some stuff in my diary about masturbating, and like a month later, my mom went through all my stuff. She would randomly go in my room, tear it apart. I'd always get in trouble for something, and then I'd have to clean up the mess and be grounded for whatever amount she felt like that day. So anyway, she found that diary entry. She picks me up from school and won't talk to me. I get home, my door was removed from my room, that diary entry was taped on the wall, and I was threatened with a belt if I didn't answer all her invasive questions. Way to give a kid a complex about their sexuality. I was called at a friend's house at 11 PM at night because I left 2 t-shirts slung over the chair in my room versus hanging them in my closet. I had to go back to my house and then I was grounded for a week. Upon getting home, my mother had gone through my entire room and tossed every item out of my dresser. She claimed they were messily put in the dresser. Fun stuff. Mom hits me with kitchen utensils and yells that I'm not allowed to put my hands up to defend myself from her strikes. I had to write essays on TV shows that I wanted to watch in order to have them unblocked by the parental controls. I remember writing a riveting piece on the educational and cultural benefit of Disney's That's So Raven. Also, I wasn't allowed to watch PG-13 movies, even after turning 13. Wasn't allowed to rest my head on my hand with my elbow on any table, while there was also food on that table. If my parents found out I was going too fast in my car, small town, so other parents would snitch on me pretty regularly for going 10 over. I had to pay my parents speeding tickets. Also, they would make me pay for the whole family's phone bill if I texted a boy. By the time I moved out at 17, I had given them well over $1,000 in punishment money earned at the Sonic drive-in.